Hello and welcome to a very special How I Paint Things. Now today we're going to cover one of the Khorne warriors from the Shadespire warband, the name of which I forget, but they are pretty easy. Now somebody asked me a little while back, is it possible to dry brush skin? And of course, me being me, I said, yeah, of course you can. But it got me thinking about a slightly different way of painting, because there are sort of three broad camps where somebody might want to paint their models so that everything in their army is a work of art. Maybe, like myself, they just want to get models on the table and spend a little bit more time on characters. And then there's that third camp, which I think gets forgotten and kind of left behind occasionally, where there are people who really just want gaming figures, who want stuff that's going to look like a certain army on the table, but they either haven't got a lot of time, or they can't invest a huge amount in paints and brushes. Now, when I say they get forgotten, I think, kind of deliberately, some people tend to sidestep the idea of, well, why not just spray something red and then wash it? If you're looking for a token, a game piece, and that's all it's going to be, I think there's, a little bit of a stigma around that, and that's unfortunate to me. I think we can do better. But this is probably just a step up from where I'd look at, token pieces, and I'm pretty pleased with how he turned out. So let's get a look at what I used, and we'll see what you guys think. Now to begin with, I've given him a brown spray. I've started off with Mournfang Brown, mostly because it's going to be a really good base coat for all of the colours we're going to use, and on top of that, I can leave some areas in Mournfang Brown, and then I don't have to paint them. Choice. You can save a little bit of time this way. We'll start off by doing the largest and messiest part of him first though, and that's going to be his skin. So we'll start with Bugman's Glow, and then we're going to dry brush it. I'm going to dry brush it with Eldar Flesh. Now, you may notice straight away, that is a hell of a difference. But we're going to fix that up later, okay? It will look awful when you first put it on, but trust me, hold the faith, we'll get to it and we'll fix those things up. You'll see what I mean. Then we're going to move on to Mephiston Red for some of the red details. So if there's any armor, that you want to red in, this would be one place to do it. Lead Belcher for all of his metal details. We're going to do a few little leather bits in Ashen Grey. Zandri Dust for any skulls, and of course being a Khorne blokey, there's plenty of those. And then if we need to tidy up, we've got a little bit of Mournfang Brown in the pot, and some Retributor armor just to do all of his brassy details. So let's get started, and we'll see what happens. Bugman's Glow first of all. So starting off with our Bugman's Glow, I've got a little bit of water just in my brush, mix in there. Make sure it comes off nice and smooth. And then all it is just going over all of his skin. You may find you'll need to go and do a second coat of this. Bugman's Glow does cover quite well though, so it's really up to you. I'm just going to go around now and we'll fill in all of these areas. Now once you're satisfied with the colour of your skin, you've got that base coat down, it's time to dry brush it. So I've got my Eldar Flesh and a small dry brush. We'll just prep our brush up in the normal way. Okay, you just want to work it into the bristles, but wipe most of it off on some, kitchen towel. We'll dry brush there the edge of his base, just to get an idea of what we're going to leave behind, and that's not too bad. Now I'm going to start from the bottom and pull my brush up, because I want to work away from those areas that I might want to leave later. Now you'll notice, I was not lying. This goes on really bright. But just by going back and forth a few times, rather than immediately blatting on a huge amount in one go, you can still get a fairly decent sort of shift in colour, rather than it just catching the very edges. So by virtue of dry brushing, you are going to get those higher areas of colour first. And what you want to do is just go around, and using that, try just to catch the high points of the muscle. Some of these areas you're going to end up getting a few times anyway, just because he's got some scars and stuff on him. But take your time, and we can build up some of that colour. Alright, so I'm going to go around and do his front now as well. And we'll come back and see what he's like when this is finished. Oh my goodness, that's quite a sharp change in colour. But by going back over a few times and lightly building it up as we go, it's actually a fairly smooth transition between Bugman's Glow and Eldar Flesh. So that's going to really help us out when we come to do the stage where that all comes together. So keep the faith, guys. I've got now my Mephiston red, and I'm just going to pick out a few spots where red is going to look cool. So let's just go over his tabard. I'll do his armor plate things in here in red, and we'll do his top knot in 2. It's not going to matter too much if these are all the same red, but if you wanted to, you could use Khorne red for a couple of these spots instead. But whatever the case, just a little bit of water in your brush, and I'm going to get in and we'll finish these off now. Now if you're in a hurry, while that's still drying, you can get in with some lead belcher, and let's just do the metal areas. So we'll do his blade and his axe, and let's do part of his belt buckle thing he's got going here too. So I'll go around now, and this is not too complex. Now the big starry skull thing he's got in the center, very ornate, we're going to cover that in with lead belcher as well, but when we come back and do the Retributor armor, we're going to cover over that no problem. So don't worry if you end up covering any of these metal bits that you want to be gold later, because going on over silver will actually be really easy, and it kind of helps with the contrast too. Now we've got our Eshin Grey, and I'm going to do, that brown kept pretty well. So I'm going to do this Eshin Grey on his trousers, and we'll do it up on the leather thing he's got tying his hair together as well. So this you'll probably find you can get away with doing just the one coat, particularly if you do want this to look a little dirty and patchy when it comes to washing it. Now I'm doing this before I do the gold on him, because if I go over any little bits of armor, doesn't matter, we're going to paint them again in a minute. So here we go, Eshin Grey all over those bits. Now we can see he's actually starting to come together. I've got as well a little Xandri dust. We're going to get in and paint the skulls he's got here. So do the ones on his base too at the same time. Just a quick blat of Xandri dust. We'll pick these out, and they'll look pretty cool when we finish off his base. Now let's get out our Retributor armor, and anywhere that you want to be bronze or brassy. So let's get on to the chest bit here. Now if you want to leave parts of the axe, like leave the whole thing silver, that'll work pretty well if you're looking to just save time on it. But I like the contrast. I think it looks pretty cool like that. And now finally, if there's anywhere that you want to tidy up with a bit of Mournfang brown, so for example along his braces, now's the time to get in there and just round those areas out. You'll notice this is a slightly different tone to the spray, so if there's any way you can avoid having to do this, all the better, but let's just get in and I'll finish off a little bit of this tidying. Now if you do want to do his boots in a different color, like say you want to do black boots, you could black them in at this stage, but I think if you're looking to save time, you just want to get this guy on the table quickly as possible, just leave his boots the same as the leather stuff that's holding them on. Don't worry too much about mucking around adding extra colors if you can avoid it, because it's all going to be extra time spent on the brush. Now if you do have any scars on the model that you want to stay sort of a peachy scarred color, just blat them with a little bit of Bugman's Glow again to even them out, and we'll do something a little bit more with them later. Now he's actually not looking too bad. If you were looking for a gaming figure, mate, this is not a bad place to stop. You could play some games with him no problem. But we're going to go a little bit further, and it will take no time at all. I've got my Agrex Earthshade, and just going to get a little bit of water into the brush so that this isn't going to stick straight to the bristles. Then we'll go ahead, and you want to be fairly generous with this, so brace yourself, because on we go. And you want to cover the whole model, and by the whole model I mean the base as well. Alright, so drench your boy in this, get around the entire thing, and then you want to leave him, if we're going to do the whole model like this, probably about an hour, and then we'll come back. Now once he's had his time to dry, this is what we've got, and actually, I quite like how that turned out. I'd put him on the board pretty happily like that. He looks pretty cool. He's obviously done a lot quicker than other sort of methods you could use, but as far as he's shaded, he's got some depth, this is all really simple stuff. And I think for anybody who's just getting started, or, say they're looking for an easy way of doing things, that wasn't too hard at all. Now, like I said, you could put him on the table like this, but I'm going to go ahead, we'll do a little bit more to him now, so that, if you want to brighten them up a wee bit, we can do that. So I've got some Reikland Flesh Shade here, and I'm going to be a lot less generous with this than I was with the first shade. And we're just going to go back over all of his skin again. So just a little bit of Reikland Flesh Shade to sort of warm him out a little bit, because Agrak's first shade is quite stark. So let's just get around. And like I said, don't go nuts with this. Now I've got my small layer brush and a little Bloodletter. And he looks a little bit more sort of red and angry overall, which is good for a Khorne warrior, I think. But I reckon we can do a little bit more. So I'm just going to put some of this over those scarred areas, and that'll help brighten them up. And then we'll paint just a little of this into that horrible carved chunk in his skin. If you go over the edges a little, don't worry too much, because it will make them look gross and inflamed. So let's just get that in there now. Now, so far we haven't paid much attention to the base, and we're going to continue paying not very much attention to the base. I've just got a little bit of Tyrant's Skull on the end of a brush here, and I'm going to lightly just do some of the texture towards the edges. All right, you'll see how very quickly, even though we've got bone and dirt and all that carry on there, this actually, I think, does a pretty good job of finishing off that base for our gaming figure. All right, you could do a lot more if you wanted to be a bit more precise and finish it off nicely, but this does the trick, I think. Now, I've just quickly done his teeth and tongue with a little bit of Khorne red and some pallid witch flesh, although you can use white if you want to. And now I've got here Blood for the Blood God, which I've never used before, so this could be interesting. Let's get in there and just start flicking. I see how this works. It starts to collect towards the edges. Okay, so let's do a little bit more of this. Yeah, let that build up. And then we'll flick it around and we'll do the other side too. Yeah, this looks cool. I like that. That's really neat. And then let's just get a little bit of Evil Sun Scarlet on the edge of our brush, and we'll lightly flick along and catch the high parts of his top knot there. And we'll do that on the other side too. Now all that remains is to go around the edge of his base in a colour of my choosing, but otherwise he's finished. And for a model who I was a little, worried might not look so good, he came out looking pretty cool. Now, Shadespire in particular, I think is really neat for, maybe younger gamers who are just getting started. Maybe you've got lilies who are always wanting to paint something, that you're going to play with. And the small model count of a Shadespire warband is really handy for that. Otherwise, this is just one way you can paint up your Khorne bloodpeckers or whatever they're called. Bloody bloodpeckers. I can never remember. Bloodsecrator, skull blooders. I love them to bits. Okay, the Khorne guys are so dumb. You can't not love them. But like I said, this is an easy way to get these guys on the table. Minimum of fuss, not much in the way of highlighting, and all of those extra little details are really down to what you want to do. So hopefully, guys, something in there was useful to you. I certainly enjoyed myself. As ever, you can drop a comment in the old box below. My Facebook and Twitter are both linked there too. So, thank you very much for your time. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.